In this video, we'll be going over some of the basic design that I use for a lot of my mini pendants. Starting with a 6-inch piece of 14 gauge half round wire. This is dead soft. I'm going to pick a point somewhere near the middle, and I'm going to start one of the swirls in that spot. So I'm going to start this swirl just however you do your swirls. I like to try to keep mine flat when I can, but it's not necessary. And it doesn't really even have to be a swirl. Some of the sleeker designs don't have any swirls. So with the wire coming out of the bottom, I'm going to pull that around. This will just kind of be an area where we can tie off a lot of our other wires. And so this will continue into the bail. I generally will make the same frame for a lot of my pieces, but then by the end of it, they all end up dramatically different. So now we're going to start the bail, and we're going to add a secondary loop in there, so we can do tie-offs around the very top without the tie-offs getting in the way of the chain. This is great for longevity purposes and having a long-lasting piece. So now that we've got the bell finished, we're going to tuck this wire in here and get it ready to be tied off. I'm not quite sure how all these wires are going to tie off together, but we'll see. So the way we're going to bend this at the bottom here is a technique that I use in so many of my pieces. I believe that it creates a really strong lowest point support, and it also allows to where nothing will ever catch under this edge and pull up some of this top wire. So with this point on the bottom, I'm going to figure out how big the stones need to be. So I want to make sure that I leave enough space, depending on the size of stone that you're using. So I'm going to bend it in a loop. And this is so we can run some wires in through this later. So leaving that loop on the bottom, bend this over, and now we can use this extending wire to finish off the right side of the pendant. So now that we have that loop, I'm going to carefully twist this loop so it's more in line with how I want this pendant to flow. You don't have to do that step, and it does get a little tricky, making sure that the loop in the bottom is still open. So you can see here with the inserted video, I also use this technique on larger pendants. This larger pendant was the one on the right side of the image for the intro screen. So here I'm going to try to find a place to tie this off. It's interesting, all of my tie-offs end up being slightly different. My mind doesn't work in a way to be able to reproduce hardly anything. I'll show you at the end of this video the 3 attempts that I started to try to get them to look the same, but there was just no way. Especially at this tiny size, every little bend and twist will be a little bit different. I could use this wire to continue to do some more decorative stuff, but in this case I'm trying to keep the pendant smaller. Now I'm going to use this piece of 22 gauge round wire. It's 8 inches. And I'm going to bend a loop right here in the middle. This will slide through the loop on the very bottom of the pendant. So now that we've got that, it'll kind of hinge in place, which is great. So with the 2 wires coming out, this will be the start of a place where we can do a weave. So now here we have about 1.5 feet of 28 gauge wire. This will be used to make our weave on the back side and continuing onto the front side. And so we'll weave this together, and this will be basically like the back door that we can put the stone in and then use this to close and hold the stone in place. And we'll speed up this weave part. So now that we have this weave on the bottom, I'll start to pull this up and we can almost put it in place. And so actually, that wire wasn't quite in the right spot when I initially put it there. It didn't seem to be holding the stone up tight enough. So now we'll pull this wire through this other part, and hopefully that'll hold the opal in there a little bit tighter. Yeah, this is feeling a lot better now. Opal is in there nice and tight. And there's a lot of times you'll see me do this move, but I'll use my pliers as like a crank. I'll pinch the wire and then I'll leverage against the piece and pull the wire tighter. I use it quite a bit. So now with these wires hanging out on this side, I'm going to try to line them up so I can do a weave coming across the front of this. Sometimes I'll use my pliers in a place like this to straighten out the wire when I've bent it too many times. Before I start my weave, I want to make sure that these wires are very secure and nothing is going to be loose. So I want to pull these around and kind of tangle them up a little bit better. Little side note, sometimes I feel like a lot of wire wrapping is just tangling wires. But tangling them in very elegant ways, right? I'm going to speed it up through some of this weave making process and some of the basic coiling. And this is all just decoration at this point. You can really start to do it in whatever way that you choose. There's a lot of different variations. And also feel free to create anything that you see, anything that you're inspired by that's coming from me. I really don't care if anybody's trying to even directly copy my stuff, that, you know, every artist is going to have their own touch and it's going to end up just slightly different. Every single one of my pieces ends up a little bit different. So, you know, even if it does look exactly the same, then more kudos to you. That's a really good job. Don't let anybody give you crap for copying my designs or anything. This is a tutorial that I am offering. And so, yes, you have full permission to recreate this design and sell it for money and do all of your things. I really want people to be able to make more of these mini pendants. Honestly, I get asked for them so much. There really can't be enough people making elegant little designs. So feel free to use this. My style is also going to continue to evolve. So who knows if I'll really be using this exact technique later. But I do love it for now, and it really seems to hold everything very secure. It's been a very promising little design I've been using for about a couple of years. So now we'll start to tie off this 22 gauge wire. So maybe I'll try to bring it back to the main piece and tuck it in there somewhere. Or the wire might just break. But good thing we already basically had it tied off. That's why I like to add a lot of different tie-offs, basically tangle my pieces. So even if it comes loose in one spot over time, it won't really continue to come loose because everything is double and triple reinforced. So this isn't the best little spot, but this will work as a decent tie-off. It is just a mini pendant. They don't have as much weight to tear themselves apart. Mini pendants are light, and this will be an absolutely fine tie-off for this. Anytime I pull the wires through like that, I want to make sure that I'm being very aware of the stone, making sure that the wire isn't pulling directly across the face of the stone. So I'm going to squeeze this together a little bit tighter here. I'm being very cautious of the stone and making sure that I'm not putting too much pressure. But I also want to make sure that this is holding extremely tight. We'll tie off that little wire there. And that's pretty much, by many people's standards, that's a finished pendant. It's ready to go. That's the basic idea, basic style. This is, like I said before, this is a frame style that I make many different pendants with, and every single one of them ends up being slightly different. So feel free to play with it, and I'm excited to see what you come up with. I did end up adding more wire onto this piece, as you can see here with the finished one. It's here in the middle. Here's a quick run through in what's to come in the next video, including adding the last wire, polishing, oxidizing, and then repolishing. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your patronage. Look out for that next video in the next few days.